Again, we want to thank the Motorcycle Mechanics Institute for sponsoring this video. MMI is a school for motorcycle enthusiasts who want to train for a career in the industry. Click the link above for more information. So whoever said the 600cc class, the supersport class, is dead or dying may or may not be right, but Kawasaki is holding on tried and true with this, the brand new, sort of, 2024 ZX-6R. So, starting at the front of the ZX-6, obviously the design is different. New fairing design, new front end design. The obvious difference is a more streamlined look, a more angular look, to keep it in line with the ZX-10 and now the ZX-4 family. LED headlights, LED turn signals, a little bit different windscreen, and then as we move down to the brakes, you will see the previous ZX-6 had the pedal type brake rotors. The new bike now has the round ones. Still a 310mm diameter, still the radial Nissan brake calipers, just the disc themselves are now round instead of the pedal. As we move more towards the back of the bike, the big difference from the cockpit area is going to clearly be this 4.3-inch TFT display. As you can see, it's colorful, it's easy to read. This is the black background with the white lettering. You can also flip it to have the white background with the black lettering. You see your normal things you need to see on here: attack, speedo, gear position. The important thing to pay attention to now with the 2024 bike is the different ride modes. The previous bike had ride modes and it had TC, and you could pick and choose which one you wanted to use. With the 24 bike and this TFT display, it's now allowed the integration of the ride modes to also include the TC with it. So you press a button, you change your mode, say from sport to road or sport to rain or road to rain, whatever it is. That mode has now integrated TC. And if you don't want any of those things, there's also a rider mode. You can choose for yourself which power setting you want, which TC setting you want, and you're off to the races. This also integrates into Kawasaki's Rideology app that lets you see the usual information you see on the dash. Personally, I don't really see the point of it. For this bike in particular, for a touring bike, may be the case. And obviously everything on the screen here is adjustable via buttons, either on the left or right bar. But that's the big deal here. What else is there to talk about? The engine. The 636 4-cylinder is largely the same engine as on the previous bike. Big difference here would be different camshafts for what Kawasaki says they're for better low-end torque, for better drive off of corners. And there's also the part that isn't as sexy but is very important to sell motorcycles, the exhaust routing and the pre-chamber down here at the bottom. Yeah, it's bigger on the 24 bike compared to the 23 bike. Again, not a very sexy thing to talk about, but emissions are a huge deal when it comes to producing motorcycles that, you know, manufacturers can sell. And as we've learned from like Volkswagen and Dieselgate, you cheat the rules, you're in big trouble. The beauty with it, according to Kawasaki, is the power hasn't really diminished, if anything. The different camshafts help with that, but that's part of the change-up. As we move on, most of this stuff from the back of the bike on is pretty much the same as before. I believe it's even the same tail section from the previous bike. You got a fully adjustable shock, which is not different from before. Going on to this side of the motorcycle, you even have the same 1543 gearing, so the front and rear sprockets are the same. You have the quick shifter right there. That's only for upshifts though, which again, that's also not a new feature. If you are the racer type and you want to reverse your shift pattern and still keep the quick shifter, you can do that, but you have to reflash the ECU to now tell it that when you push down on the lever, that is now an upshift, and retain your quick shifter feature. If you don't want to go with Kawasaki parts, the aftermarket will allow you to auto blip for up and down shifts, but that's a little bit in the weeds there. So the thing with the ZX-6 is, the good news is it does have traction control like I mentioned before. As we move down here, you can see the tone ring on the brake disc. There's another one on the front as well. The TC on the ZX-6 is still old school style. It's a reactive system and not a proactive system. There's no IMU, is what I'm trying to say here. There's no IMU on the ZX-6. It doesn't read what the bike is doing and adjust in real time. It basically goes off of the wheel speed sensors, the throttle position, the butterfly openings on the throttle butterflies, and other rate of change of what the rear and front tires are spinning at to determine if to intervene and how much to intervene. So again, that's a reactive system and not a proactive system for TC. You know, it's not the most advanced system out there, but it works. This particular bike you see here, the ones we've been all riding for this test, are not equipped with ABS. However, the ABS versions, which cost $1,000 more, have updated software from the Bosch 9.3 MP ABS ECU. So it's updated software for smoother ABS interruption, so there's probably less pulsing on the brake lever. So updated software for that. Again, old school TC on this, and that's also not sexy news, but important to know as you know you're wondering what's changed on the bike. Being a track motorcycle, a super sport motorcycle, the racetrack really is where these things shine. And despite any marketing materials or things that say, you know, street bike, street bike, street bike, let's be real here, riding a super sport bike on the street can be kind of taxing, not the most comfortable position to be in, and you kind of feel like you're letting the bike down. These things want to be on a racetrack screaming their heads off, and so that's why Kawasaki invited us to the Ridge Motorsports Park here in Shelton, Washington. Unfortunately, the weather right now is raining, which is why we're in a garage talking in here. Luckily though, yesterday was a nice, beautiful day, and we got to rip on these things for several hours, so that worked out well. Impressions, well, lots. You know, it's been a while since I've ridden the ZX-6, either track or street, and this was such a refamiliarization to the bike, and I remember how easy this thing is to ride. It's not a high-strung super sport bike. It is a, as far as super sport level track-oriented motorcycles go, this is a pretty easy bike to get along with, in as far as you have some bottom end punch from the extra cc's in the engine to get moving. Once you start going faster though is when things start to shine, and good or bad. I've always liked the extra grunt those extra cc's gave the 636 engine, but that on-off fueling isn't great. It's kind of lurchy, and you have to, no matter how careful I was getting on that throttle, I could never quite be smooth enough, and I would be getting this lurching sensation from on-off throttle. And then obviously you're revving the bike out, and it likes to rev, but when you get upstairs about, after about 12,000 RPM, it just kind of falls off a cliff and flatlines. And you still have about 1,500 revs to go before redline, and you're like, wait a minute, I got a short shift because I'm just out of steam. So you go to short shift, and there's too long of a kill time with the quick shifter. So you shift, and it kind of lulls you back for a sec before it clicks into the next gear and you keep going again. If they could quicken up those kill times on the quick shifter, get nice, crisp, smooth shifts, which is an easy thing to fix from a software perspective or even aftermarket perspective, And then it's, in this day and age, having an auto blipper for downshifts as well is just part of the game. There's something real nice about freeing up your mind space to not have to use that clutch as much or at all to bang downshifts down. I think those might be some small gripes to some, maybe big gripes to others. Having that power drop off upstairs, yeah, that's going to require either some ECU flashing or some cams or some kind of mechanical work to bring back. As it sits though, the other, I guess, complaint I have about the ZX-6 is the rider position. It might seem roomy up here, but I felt cramped. Like I could not get into a tuck. My elbows were pretty much resting on my thighs and not in front of my knees, and this bodywork could not protect all of me from the wind blast like it would be in an actual tuck. The crazy thing is, Chuck Graves of Graves Motorsport fame is here. He has his own race bike in the other garage with different bodywork and different tail section that, if you didn't know any better, it looks the same as this bike, and yet you hop on the thing and the ergos are so much different and you have so much more room. So all of these things so far can be changed, but as a stock bike, just a thing to be aware of. On the bright side, the fuel tank, which is unchanged from last year, I actually like the support that the fuel tank was giving me. My outside leg on the corners, I had a lot to grab onto so I could support myself going into corners and hold myself upright, or if I was changing directions with my lower body, I could use these big slabs of surface area to transition my weight and move the bike from side to side. So it's ergonomically nice that way. You do feel some vagueness from the suspension that's not totally race quality suspension, but that's a level of splitting hairs that is probably not necessary for a lot of riders. The separate function big piston forks for almost all types of riding works really well. You know, if I had my way of doing it, I would have the rebound and compression in separate forks. All in all, we got this thing working pretty good for a stock production motorcycle. One caveat though, we did add a 2mm shim in the shock to raise the rear ride height to get it to change directions a lot faster, and it made a huge difference. And so depending on who you are and your riding style and what tires you have available to you, that might be something that you want to look into. The front brakes are now round and not pedal style discs, still 310mm, radial master cylinder. And you know, it stopped me just fine. I mean, you get a lot of stopping power from a stock braking system. I rode the thing for hour-long session. There's a really hard braking zone into turn one here at the ridge with the chicane there. You go from 6th gear to 2nd gear, lap after lap after lap, and I really didn't feel much, if any, fade. If it were me personally, I'd probably go with more aggressive brake pads, but that's just my style. I might have been nitpicking a lot about this bike, but it's because I see a lot of potential in this motorcycle, and Stefano Mesa has shown what this platform can do when built correctly. He won the last Moto America race against Ducatis and R6s and other really fast motorcycles. So the potential is there, which is why I'm kind of nitpicking this thing, because I know there's more to come out of this bike. That said, that leads to the all-important question of price. There are 3 color options available with the ZX-6. The first one is this one, the KRT edition color scheme. The next one is the Pearl Robotic White / Metallic Graphite Gray. And then the last one is the Metallic Flat Spark Black / Ebony. Tongue twisters, but you get the idea. Green, white, or black. All of them cost $11,299 for the non-ABS versions, and if you want ABS, then you add $1,000 to that. You can be the judge of whether or not the 600 / supersport class has kind of priced itself out. But if you want to know more about the 2024 ZX-6, and after I have a chance to really download my thoughts, write them all out on digital paper, you gotta go to Motorcycle.com, read my full review there, and see more pictures and get more information straight from the source. So that's it from the Ridge racetrack here in Washington. Cool bike, this ZX-6, but it could be cooler. There's a lot more that it could do. Thanks for watching. You know the deal. Like, subscribe, give me negative comments down below. I encourage it, I expect it, and I'll be sure to reply to none of them. So, thanks for watching, and as always, we'll see you later.